Let's Podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovias inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh. Thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. You know what's hot right now? Saving money.
Yes.
Saving money.
Always.
And you and I were talking about this before we recorded today's podcast about, where is our money going exactly? You might find yourself asking those same questions coming out of the tax time. They can help you at Copiers Plus with a print assessment, a document assessment. So check them out online at copiers-plus.com. You know what else is hot right now?
The Q-Grass Festival.
That's hot too. We're
going to be there on Saturday. Thanks to our friends at Empire Eats. Come check us out. Noon to 6. Beer, bands, and obviously Q.
The 90s are hot right now.
The 90s.
So hot right now.
Okay.
I mean, let's look at the last couple of weeks. We've got Conan O'Brien and Saturday Night Live making people laugh. That sounds familiar. Did you see the Beavis and Butthead sketch?
Yes.
I mean, objectively, the sketch was very, very thin, but because everybody broke character like the cowbell sketch, it made it funny. OJ Discourse continues into this week.
Yes.
Okay. Feels like it's 95.
Check. Yes.
I was going over my entertainment news this morning and I saw Courtney Love apparently is still criticizing pop artists. She's going after Taylor Swift. Okay. Got that. We got rap beefs.
Yes, we did.
Talked about rap beefs yesterday, obviously. I was doing some tech podcast listening yesterday, and apparently Disney wants to put, and I'm reading this correctly, 24/7 streaming channels on Disney Plus.
Okay.
You mean cable? We have invented. What if? Okay, hear me out. What if we put on this service? You just click a button and it's just constantly bringing you content nonstop.
Huh. That's wild.
Whoa. So they invented cable at Disney Plus. Awesome. Apparently there's a new social network called AirChat. Have you heard about AirChat? It's the hottest thing in Silicon Valley. Can you guess what AirChat does?
AirChat is Twitter?
It kind of.
Or American Online Instant Messenger.
No, it is dubbed as an audio-first social network.
Audio first
social network. You mean I pick this up and I click on and then I talk to it? Oh, you mean a phone call?
Audio first
though, Joe. Audio first. It actually has me thinking that maybe we've come full circle in that, hey, we've got this podcast. It's available digital only. We are on YouTube. But if somebody wanted to put this, wait for it, over the air, we'd be willing to listen, right? But then I'm reading Sportico. It's one of these sports business websites. And they got their hands on what they call a slide deck, aka a PowerPoint presentation. At some point in time, calling a PowerPoint presentation a deck what was the trendy business thing to do. And this PowerPoint presentation was about the Super League, the college football Super League that was reported on back in February. And the highlights of this 11-slide pitch deck from February, according to Sportico, highlighted a Super League that consisted of 70 permanent members divided up among 7 conferences. And you look at the conferences, and if you're watching on YouTube, I got the slide deck up of the various conferences. You have, or divisions, excuse me, West, Southwest, Plains, Midwest, Northeast, Southeast, South, and then underleague division. Essentially, the underleague division would be regulation and promotion of the group of 5 teams. So in the initial underleague division, you'd have Boise State, JMU, Liberty, Miami of Ohio, New Mexico State, Toledo, Troy, Tulane, UNLV, UTSA, San Antonio. So those teams, depending on how things would shake out, would go up or down into that division. And then you pull them all into a playoff at the end of the year. And I was looking at the Southeast, and the Southeast sounds kind of familiar. It would be Clemson, Duke, Florida, Florida State, Miami, NC State, North Carolina, South Carolina, UCF, and Wake Forest. The South would involve Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Kentucky, LSU, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Vanderbilt. It's like, Joe, they reinvented conferences from the 90s when they were mostly regional. What a concept. Now, look, man, I think it's pretty cool that we've gotten to the point where people who used to call sports talk radio 20 years ago and call up the host with their fever dreams of I've got this idea for a 60-team super conference broken up into these divisions, and this is how it would work, and this is how you do the playoff, that they've made enough money in the last 20 years to put themselves in very high-level positions at various places within the sports industry and cook up stuff like this to present to potential investors. By the way, one of the people that is in this think tank, it's not just, MBA owners or other business leaders. It's also some college football folk or college administrators like North Carolina Athletics Director Bubba Cunningham. I know John Orand at Puck News had reported it almost like in a throwaway blurb talking about this think tank that's trying to reinvent college football, that Bubba Cunningham was in it. I find that interesting, Joe, because you and I both agree we are big fans of Bubba Cunningham. He sees where this is going and he wants to get ahead of it. And this is part of the thing that they're cooking up. I don't necessarily think this will ever get off the ground, but I did think it was interesting to see it on display in this deck.
The interesting conundrum facing these schools as they try to move forward. And Charlie Baker, the NCAA, let's give him a little bit of credit here.
Yeah.
Came in with an idea for essentially a super league.
Yeah.
Right. The problem is right now, the distribution model is to distribute the money from media rights through conferences. So how do you separate the distribution from the conference? Why would the conference be willing to do that? The schools would be willing to do it if there's more money, right?
Yeah.
All the schools care about is money.
Yeah.
Sorry. They don't care about anything else. Sorry to break this to everybody. They don't care about you. They tax you right now, make you pay for their scholarships, and now making you pay for NIL on the side.
Sure.
So they don't care about you, the fan. They don't care. They don't really care about the player all that much. I mean, some, I don't want to overgeneralize, but for the most part, they're replaceable parts, the players. The coaches, they reward in part because the system is set up that they have to spend the money somewhere, because remember, they have tax exempt status. Like, you want to get me started on some bullshit. We're over here and I'm paying 30% and these schools are doling out millions.
Have our listeners figured out yet that tax season was rather traumatic for us for the first time?
I'm sorry. So, and if you might think, oh, that's no big deal. I would like some tax exempt status, please.
Please.
Pretty please.
Hey, look, I did kick around the idea of being a nonprofit.
Pretty please.
I did kick that idea around, but Jay, our legal advisor at the time, said, no, you don't want to do that.
So these schools care about one thing. And if the distribution model is to be paid through the conference, well, I don't see that I see that as a barrier for significant change. Because I think you and I are on the same page. We would love to see, and Chip Kelly, right? We would love to see football broken off into its own entity.
That's what this is about.
But how do you break football off if it's a major revenue distribution and have the structure still exist? Not sure it's possible.
Well, I mean, the other thing that you have to keep in mind when it comes to all this stuff is you're talking about the conferences and how do they get their money? Well, how do the players get their money? Because that's the other part about this, that as we see with NIL, as the portal has opened up with college football, and it's almost like people are trying to treat it like free agency. I was listening to Chip.
I think it really is.
Oh, well, but the thing is, unlike free agency in the NFL or other professional sports, a lot of this, man, is completely up in the air, and these guys might transfer again. I was listening to Cover 3 with Chip Patterson yesterday, and they were just kind of mocking the idea of doing a portal special. The winners and losers of the portal. Man, we don't know.
Yeah,
we just don't know. But in the Sportico article, they highlighted the slide deck proposing a national broadcast construct whereby players receive pro rata shares of a collectively bargained FB player pool, which would come from the Super League's TV money. That money would be distributed as follows: 5% to all rostered freshmen, 15% to all rostered sophomores, 30% for all rostered juniors, and 50% for seniors and graduate students. The article continues, as another means of maintaining competitive equity, the pitch deck proposes a cap that would constrain how much a program's athletes could earn via NIL. The suggested NIL roster cap would mandate that individual NIL payments for football players at a single school would not exceed those earned via group licensing and broadcast NIL deals. If a school exceeds that cap for a season, then it would be punished for by losing transfer slots and possibly scholarship slots. If, on the other hand, a school were to fall below 80% of its pre-established NIL roster floor, as they called it, for 2 consecutive seasons, it would be relegated to the underleague until it could sustain a full season above that floor. Essentially, that would answer the question that I have related to some of these divisions. For instance, Wake Forest, Duke, those kinds of things. Indiana, being in the Midwest. I know SMU's good for the money, but there are some schools that might not necessarily be good for the money, especially, say, out in California, like a Cal or a Stanford. As
about Boston College.
Or Boston College, for that matter. I mean, heck, I'm kind of giving Duke a pass a little bit here. But I mean, I'm pretty sure.
How about Northwestern?
Yeah, no, it's another good question.
Dr. Jim.
That's another good question. But I think you and I are on the same boat. I am not slamming this. I'm not slamming this idea because it's on the right path for things that you and I have been talking about. Clearly, the structure of college athletics, specifically for college football, is broken. And something has to replace it. What does it look like? I don't know. I think this is interesting. Do I think it's actually going to happen? No. And here's the reason why. College administrators only have themselves to blame for allowing the SEC and the Big Ten, in partnership with the television networks, to assume all the power. Look at the negotiations that just took place for the college football playoff in terms of what the television revenue distribution was going to look like and what the format was going to look like. These jabronis wanted to have automatic qualifications for their conferences. I'd like, just, hey man, you just get to go because you're from this league. That's not equitable anyway, but we've allowed it to happen. We allow entities like Notre Dame on their own to dictate the future of college football. And I'm always at a loss as to why. So it's almost like you've lost privileges. It's like with your kids. Sorry, you've lost screen privileges. You can't be trusted. And that's how I am with college administrators right now when it comes to college football. And it's time for a new voice to come in and completely rethink it. Or people within the construct, like a Bubba Cunningham, who have ideas, but clearly it's above their pay grade because they're not presidents and they have other schools to deal with and everything else. And that's where we're at right now. Ultimately interesting, Joe, but I'm just not sure it's going to work. Just ultimately not sure it's going to work.
Housekeeping.
Brought to you by Enovana. Check them out online, ENOVANA.com.
Clean with Enovana.
Oh, wait, see. I spent this morning doing some upgrades to the studio. A lot of things that I needed to do. Hold on a second.
I enjoy it when it happens to you.
I know. I spent this morning, now that we're out of the NCAA tournament and Final Four run, we've got some time to...
Speaking of which, make sure I'm running through the board.
Oh, yeah. Hold on a second. That'd be terrible if that was...
Because we had that yesterday.
I know, we did have that yesterday.
I think it happens when we switch the
No, we're good. We're good. Everything's good. Let's try this again. Enovana.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean with Enovana.
Anyway, they came through the house yesterday, did a great job or on Tuesday. Great job as always. Is that yesterday? I don't even know what day it is.
Today is Wednesday, sir.
I got an email from Enovana. They're on that deep clean movement right now with the spring and everything else. And here's the other thing to consider: with all the oak pollen that's out there, with all the stuff that's just kind of tracking around, you're bringing it into the house.
I know.
You're bringing it into the
ventilation system.
So get the house completely scrubbed down with Enovana. Again, that's ENOVANA.com. We're going to be at Shady's May 3rd. We've got bourbon. We got a Seth Jarvis mixtape. We got the OG scoreboard. Jason is going to be doing trivia that night. Breeze Through's going to be bringing their food truck. Are we giving that cardboard sign away? Hold it up.
Raffle.
You going to raffle that thing off?
Yeah, part of the raffle.
Do we sign it?
Yeah.
Okay. That works. So all that's taking place on May 3rd. A lot of this is big thanks to Whitaker and Hamer. Check them out online at wh.lawyer. Again, that's wh.lawyer, attorneys and counselors at law. And our friends over at Hometown Realty, you can check them out at myhtr.com. Again, that's myhtr.com. Buy, sell, calculate that mortgage. I cannot stress this enough. Knowing what I know about what some houses have gone for across the triangle, do not settle for a guaranteed offer. Those are lower than you think. So go with HTR, my hometown realty. Carolina Hurricanes wrapped up the season last night. I think there was about $40 million in cap space that was up in the press box.
You got to remember to tell me these things.
Tell you what things?
I'm repping our Happy and Hail people.
Yeah, I know.
I got the Roosters here. I feel like a recruit right now. I got the Roosters here.
Yeah.
I got my Shady's hat over here.
You got all the hats.
I'm ready.
All right. All right. Can I continue?
You can. I see the slide now. I'm excited. It's like an added bonus for our people.
Okay.
Actually, this hat's very comfortable, actually.
It does. It does look like a very comfortable hat.
I did get chastised, though, by Brad Frisch.
Why?
Who is of our age. He gave me you're too old to wear the flat brim rope hat. It's like,
I'll let the young people have it.
The youths.
I let the young people have it. I'm a 5-panel hat guy.
I want them to know that they can get it.
Yeah.
Happy and Hail.
You can buy that. Just like I got the gas station beers hat in my car.
Yeah, I'll bring that one in too.
You got to break that out.
I got one of those too.
Hey, they sell those.
We're
hats.
repping.
Everybody sells those hats.
We're repping kind of like the Canes top line was repping in the press box last night to seg into what you wanted.
See, it keeps doing this. Man, we're just having a show today. You want to try this again?
Yeah.
Let's take a break. Let's take a hockey break. Brought to you by Happy and Hill.
Complete amateur hour. I don't know why anybody would ever want to sponsor us, honestly, but we appreciate those who do.
Because of jingles.
It must be because
I get Lennon and McCartney rights on that one too. I'm excited.
Because of the jingles. Yeah, the Canes weren't. Look, I wasn't expecting the Canes to win last night. We talked about it with Mike Maniscalco with the playoff matchup with the Islanders set. They weren't going to be playing people. You had opportunities to call people up. One thing you didn't want to see was anybody getting hurt, which is something that happened last night with Jesper Fast. As of this morning, as of the recording of this podcast, we do not have any updates on what happened with Jesper Fast. So we'll keep you up to date when that happens. But Rod Brindamore did speak to it last night. He also spoke to wrapping up the season and key in for the last part as they get ready for the playoffs this weekend.
It's hard to put you on the spot in this situation, but 82 games, another season in the books, 52-win season. What are your initial takeaways overall?
It's been, you know what, it's been a great year. You got to give these guys a ton of credit. This game you can throw away. It's the one game you can throw away. And, the way we started, we had some real tough breaks going early in the year, and there's a lot of, I wouldn't say, I don't know what you say about it, but there was a lot of talk about our group, but you knew it was going to end like this. You just did, because there's so many good players in here, and just they get it. And, I'm happy with the season they had, and now we obviously turn the page. This is what we wanted to play for all year, and we're going to get an opportunity to do that.
On the unfortunate side of things, any update on Jesper?
Yeah, that's the part that just makes you sick, to be honest with you. You're just trying to get through the game without having that, and I'm not sure where it's going to go. But yeah, that's really that's the bad thing about what happened tonight.
From the coach's side of things, how do you get the group to flip the switch to postseason? Like, you've got a couple days here.
Yeah, well, you don't flip any switch. That's the key. The key is that you play the same way you've been playing, and you again, throw this game out because we didn't have our guys in there. But when you get your full group, how you've been playing and preparing, and that's the game that got you 52 wins or whatever it was. You got to bring that starting whenever it is.
You perked up there at the end, Joe.
I like it when Rod gets annoyed. The Hartford Whalers. So let's put these last 3 years in perspective.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
because we're going to get to the playoffs, and you and I are going to have very similar thoughts on what will make this season a success and what it won't. And we spent a lot of time during the basketball season talking about, well, does the regular season matter? Is it only about the postseason? The Hartford Whalers joined the National Hockey League in 1979. Okay. Once between 1979 and 2021, once the Carolina Hurricanes and Hartford Whalers won 50 games. Once. That was in 2006 when they won the Stanley Cup. They won 52 games that year. The last 3 years, they've won 52 this year, 52 in 23, and 54 in 22. Like, what are we doing? And to do it, as we'll talk to Sara Civian, to do it with a very a solid core of a group, but kind of changing the satellite pieces around that core and juggling goaltenders, particularly with injuries, and even trying to find and settle in on Freddie Anderson and just getting him healthy to the point this year. So when he says, going into this season, the Hurricanes were the betting favorite, and by Tom Dundon's odds, even the betting favorite. But then you go through a stretch there where they're on the road and Freddie's hurt, and Freddie was even playing. Remember now, at the beginning of the year, we had the great Hurricanes experiment of every time they add somebody new, it takes them a minute to figure out how they're going to play. So we've seen Dmitry Orlov. We've seen the whole soup to nuts there with him. And I that's why when people talk about the Hurricanes, they added Jake Gensel, they added Kuznetsov, they get Freddie back. Well, the truth of the matter is now you have Orlov up to speed too.
Yeah.
And now he's the guy that you had invested in the offseason and kind of struggled through a little bit early in the season. We talked a lot about goalies being the problem. Well, their system and the way that they play, when one guy's out to lunch, and I'm not saying Orlov was like committing sabotage or anything, you have to learn how to play in that system. And he did. And the way that he's playing now, I mean, they got this thing running as hot as they can run it. They can't ask for a better opportunity than what they have right now.
It's interesting. You look at the totality of the season, and the Canes got most of their difficult stuff out of the way early. You talk about the Whalers organization. Let's talk about what the Canes have gone through and what we were used to before we've seen this consistency of getting to the postseason, where your seasons were ultimately won or lost. I know you made the joke to Maniscalco yesterday about, those game 82s. Yeah. Well, you know why they found themselves in those game 82s?
Usually a terrible start to the season.
Right.
Usually
because of a really bad October, November, December timeframe, right? And there are all sorts of excuses as to why that was. The Canes went through a lot of shit, man, as you just demonstrated. Yeah. The fact that they powered through that, they had a couple of resets, it tells you what this team is made of. And I'm really, really excited about this postseason for very obvious reasons. I can feel it in my plums, Joe. I can feel it in my plums. I think this team is going to get to the Stanley Cup finals. I don't know if they're going to win it all, but I do think they're going to get to the finals.
I know what you can go get. A Burnsy Bowl at Happy and Hill.
I might get you some Burnsy Bowls to fill you up with protein before we start the show. Get you energized.
Good.
Maybe we've got to hit Happy and Hill with one of those smoothies before we start the show to really give you that tingle.
Smoothies are delicious. I will say that. But the Burnsy Bowl, the different flavors, like it was like a potpourri.
Yes.
And every bite, I was like, what? What is this dill slaw? What is this?
The Brussels
sprouts, the maple bacon Brussels sprouts.
But then you got the Chipotle barbecue sauce.
And then, I get it. You're like, oh, great, Gilio. It's a salad place. No,
it's not.
The steak is totally and completely legitimate. So go check out the Burnsy Bowl at Happy and Hill. They have locations. I'm going to get in trouble now. North Hills.
Yeah, Hayes texted us yesterday. Like, you guys keep saying North Hills wrong. What are we saying? How are we pronouncing North Hills wrong? Should I call it just outside the Beltline?
Might be a Hayes special.
Midtown? I don't know.
It's on the Harris Teeter side of the North Hills where the park is.
Yeah.
Okay. On that side. They're also off of Six Forks. They're in Durham. And then don't forget, they're in the arena. You can get the Burnsy Bowl during this playoff charge. Trust me, great meal for you and your family at the arena. Happy and Hill.
Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, our old friend Sara Civian, Bleacher Report, Too Many Men podcast, EP Ringside. And I love the hat, Civ. We like our group.
We do. We love our group. We like our group extra now. And got to shout out Christina from 5 for Sparkling for the hat.
You wrote about this on Bleacher Report. I'm paraphrasing the headline here, but essentially, maybe we had to like the group before we could love it. And it's been a joke. I mean, I've made the joke. Don Waddell, trade deadline, not being very active. But clearly, they felt differently about this group and what it could be capable of. They just had to go get those extra pieces, as they did with Gensel. So are they real? They're the scariest team in the NHL by your estimation.
I think so. I think it's just they knew exactly what they needed to go get. They got it. Then Freddie comes back. I feel like that's it's not underrated in the sense that we are talking about it, but it's a number one goalie who's now pretty rested. And his issue has always been too much load management, kind of like by his own accord because he wants to play in the regular season, but not being able to. He comes back now. He has fresh legs and an appreciation. So I don't know. There's that, but it's also obviously Gensel was the perfect example. You look at the underlying metrics and it's just like the defense is awesome too. Like he's just the perfect, we like our group to we love our group player.
You have a little distance now to see this team maybe from a different angle. What do you think of Sebastian Aho and the step he's taken this year?
Well, it reminds me of when I interview Rod at the end of all these playoff runs, and I'm like, "What does the group need?" And he'd honestly say, and that's the only time he'd probably be like as raw as possible, and he'd just say like, "We need an elite scorer for Aho," and it's like he's always just kind of needed. Either it's Jarvis or Gensel or both now, like the way Jarvis is growing up, and then you go out and get this elite playoff skill. It's like he can't do it all by himself. And you look at some of the great centers and they have great compliments to them because they have to pass to somebody. You know what I mean?
So here's the thing that I'm curious about when it comes to the Carolina Hurricanes. We talked about it earlier. Rod Brindamore was asked a question about flipping a switch now that it's playoff times, which to me,
you poor soul who just does not follow.
To me, it's like that's not what this is about with flipping. I don't know who it was. I just heard the audio clip of it, and I was like, there is no flip to switch. That's not what this is about. But my question is, given the playoff exits, is it the way that they've been playing, or they've just never really had 100% crack at this? And it looks like, yes, Provost aside, that they're going to have 100% crack at this with their system.
Yeah, if it wasn't not being 100% healthy with Andrei Svechnikov, etc., it's like not having the goaltending. If it's not having the goaltending, it's not having the elite scorer. Like there's always been a multifaceted issue, but you look at the ECFs and it's like the scoring just completely dries up. So it's like you're going to need either the best goalie of all time or like a few more scorers. And now they have better goaltending headed into this and more scoring. So it's just like there was a transparent need and these needs are getting filled now. So it's like you're not looking at them saying, what is the issue? Like we all knew the issue is they needed to score more in the Eastern Conference Final. And now they are giving their group the opportunity to do so. Even if it doesn't happen, it's like at least they went out and tried.
If the Canes are the scariest team, who should they be at least wary of on the Eastern side?
Oh, there's so many good teams. I mean, I'm going to say Panthers because they're Canes-esque in the way that like they maybe went on a run at first, or they just keep coming back and people keep doubting them, and they're so deep. Like there's so many different scorers on that team. It all depends on what Bobrovsky's going to do, but they scare me. I mean, the Bruins might be hungry after last season and what happened there. The Leafs, I mean, Austin Matthews scoring 70 goals. There's so many teams. It's just, and then you look at the West and it's even worse. Like this is one of the most parity playoffs there ever has been.
Well, here's the one team that I'm curious about now that they're in. Could Washington surprise? You know,
Yes.
what last go at it? What is it? The Space Cowboys, when all the old dudes had to go back up into space. I feel like that's the Washington Capitals at this point with their age.
Yeah, having nothing to lose is a dangerous thing, or whatever the quote is, and that's so true. It's just like that whole gauntlet, and that's kind of what happened with the Panthers when they made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. It was just like they were fighting after the All-Star game to get in, like with nail and tooth and claw, or whatever that phrase is. And it's like, I guess that could be the Capitals. They got nothing to lose, and Lindgren's a really good goalie. So
I haven't heard the name of our President's Trophy winners yet. What do you believe in the jinx like I do?
I don't. I think about it like every team that has won the President's Trophy, like eventually goes far or had gone far in the past few years. Like the probability that you win the cup is what, 1 in 16. So it's like, I don't know how to describe this because I'm not a mathematician. I'm not a mathlete, but like to me, the probability you're going to win the cup is already so low. It's not like winning the President's Trophy makes you less likely to do it. It's just so hard to do, you know?
Is Rod Brindamore coaching the Carolina Hurricanes next year?
Yeah, sorry, he's retiring.
Okay, because it doesn't have a contract and people are starting to freak out. And clearly you see what he's been able to build with the Carolina Hurricanes, that somebody might throw the Brinks truck at him, right? Secure the bag. But I'm with you. It's like every indication to me would be like, nah, he's going to coach here until it's done. And then when it's done, it's literally done for him.
How old is Brooks?
He is 12.
Yeah.
11 or 12.
You got 6 more years of rot at minimum.
Yeah, exactly. Easy or nothing. It really is about Carolina for him or nothing. And he's very I know everybody says that about every coach, but this situation is just so completely different. Like he barely likes coaching. Like he just likes the Carolina Hurricanes and likes the guys, likes the group.
I mean, there's truth in that statement, actually. But no, like I had a listener tweet at me saying, hey, rumor is Kevin Adams, his old buddy, his old cup buddy, up in Buffalo, they're just going to throw money at him. They like what they see. And it's like, yeah, I get his relationship with Kev Adams, but to your point, Civ, it's a little bit different with the organization.
To run it back with Jeff Skinner. Like I know about that.
All right. Kane's going to get it done, at least to the finals, or are they going to get this whole thing done?
It's time. Yeah. Now or when?
See, that's what I had also jotted down. It's the now or when. And we have to follow up our conversation with Carolina Hurricanes owner Tom Dundon, where he's
window's going to be open.
Right. It's the classic ownership front office. The window's a lot more open than you think it is, right? We're doing our due diligence. We're going to keep this thing rolling XYZ. But I get the sense by their own actions that they also feel that this is their prime opportunity before things get shifted around through a core nucleus. I mean, Seth Jarvis is going to cost a lot of money, especially after the year he had. So if not now, when? Because I don't know, when you talk to other people around the league, what their expectation and reputation is with Tom Dundon, they have a number in their head what they're going to pay you. They're not going to overpay just to keep a group together. And that's going to be the curious part going after this season.
It's interesting with the cap rising too, like to see what this team will dish out. And Dundon has always been transparent that he will pay for his stars. So where does he see Jarvis in all of that? Like he's paid for Svechnikov, he paid for Aho. It's just like there's going to be so many contracts coming up though that it's difficult. It just gets harder every year, but they keep finding ways. And it's like now that they have this year's huge for that too, because what if they make it to the cup final? Like you look at the Bruins in their heyday with Bergeron and Krejci, it's like they both had hometown deals, or they took pay cuts. Charlie McAvoy kind of took a pay cut. You look at that when you finally get respect around the league among your peers and stuff like that. It's not uncommon to take a pay cut, but you're thinking about why you're doing it, right? Like not just because the owner's cheap. Like I'm not going to do that if I'm a player, but it's like if I like the group and we're going far and we can have all the correct pieces, then I'm probably willing to take a slight pay cut. But the cap is rising, so like that really throws a wrench in it.
I keep wagering in contests of skill with Sebastian Aho my weekly salary versus his weekly salary, and I don't understand why I just can't beat him and win his weekly salary. I mean,
you keep picking the wrong things.
It's not that he's competitive as a all get out. Like it's crazy.
I'm telling you, putt might be your best chance.
No. I'm gonna appease Dundon. We'll go Top Golf.
All right, we'll do Top.
Oh, one just opened in my hometown. I'm like, we still don't have one in Raleigh, but
we do.
They just
over by the airport.
Yeah, they just opened one just outside Durham in that that nice nebulous area. All right, so Civ, when are you coming to a game?
Probably the second round, definitely the third round. So I was talking to Rod when he was in Boston. I was like, you guys got to make it because I'll start covering you and don't get sick of me yet.
We'll get you in the studio.
Perfect. I'll be there.
Sara Civian, Bleacher Report. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.
Anytime. See you guys.
Roll back. You don't know me like that. I can't do it like Chip Patterson.
Only one.
We might have to bring Chip back in to put it officially down, and then I can put it on the smart pads and hopefully get it correct.
And play in the middle of it.
And just play in the middle of it.
Johnny Technology.
Head on over to roback.com, ROH back.com. Use the promo code OG20. I just got some hoodies and their crew neck t-shirts, and they're comfortable as hell. The next mission for me is to get the shorts and the joggers. And I'm going to go ahead and do a little experimentation with the shorts because sky's out, thighs out, Joe. But you are all about those golf polos. And if you're about these golf polos and their incredible patterns, again, head to the website, use that promo code OG20.
You know me, and you know how I feel about the G.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm Garner now. I'm North Carolina. This is me. This is my home. I get it. But you can't take the jersey out of the Jersey boy. And when I tell you, you will be seeing this in the Eford Studios. That is the beautiful Garden State right there. It's almost like a choose your own adventure here with Roback.
Where's the bada bing?
Well, that would be like the naked lady on the back of the mud flaps.
Okay, that's right.
You know, that would be different. But yes, look at that beautiful visage.
I love it.
Of the Garden State. So do yourself a favor. Go find your own state. Go find your own favorite pattern. It's RHO back, rowback.com.
Joe Giglio wants to take his birthday back, and that's what we're going to do next Thursday at Longleaf Swine. Check them out online, longleafswine.com. You can order online. You can get some catering, but it's the perfect time of the year. The weather is gorgeous. It's time to go hang out in the patio and enjoy their delicious food. Again, that's all at longleafswine.com. Again, we're going to be doing OG Live there next Thursday,
2 o'clock.
part of your birthday extravaganza. And
or no, we have to do 1 o'clock at for Swine.
Yeah, we got to make sure that it's 1 o'clock. But also keep in mind that we have a big announcement next Thursday. Big content announcement.
Oh, I did not know this.
Yes, Dimitri's going to drop on by. We're going to make it official. Let people know what we're cooking up for August. It's a big deal.
Ooh,
it's a big deal. In the meantime, go out for lunch, go out for dinner. The dinner menu is different from the lunch menu. They bring things out like the burgers, brisket melts. I mean, there's all sorts of great stuff. And of course, Joe Giglio's favorite,
the chicken pot pie.
The chicken pot pie. And then when you're done with that, just go down the street, head on over to Person Street.
Again,
and you can hit Two Roosters. Go to tworoosters.com. Joe's got his hat. He's putting it on.
Gotta warn me.
Right now, they've got the kid chef flavors going on. I did the puppy chow over the weekend. It was absolutely fantastic. But we also want to let you know that they've got an autograph event coming up on Sunday, April 21st at the Two Roosters on Lake Boone Trail. Autographs, photos, ice cream, and more. They're going to have from walk-ons to the walk-ins. They're going to have KJ Keats. Yes, that KJ Keats. And Jordan Snell showing up between 3 and 5 o'clock at the Lake Boone shop. And
the Lake Boone home base?
The Lake Boone home base.
The OG home base.
I'm pretty sure that Mr. and Mrs. Wolf are going to be there, or one of them will be there. And Tuffy Tracks will be on the menu. My brother was kind of bummed out that there was no Tuffy Tracks at Person Street. But there will be Tuffy Tracks on the menu this weekend. So again, head on over to tworoosters.com.
Joining me now on the Heister Automotive Group hotline is Bethany Bradsher. She's an author, and she's in Greenville. And she's written a lot of books about the Big Rock. She's written about Dixie Classics. She's written about Bones McKinney. But I like to say your specialty is ECU Baseball. I hope that doesn't offend you.
No.
Because you wrote about Keith LeClaire. And as I was reading, and never take this for granted, you were like, a lot of ECU fans wanted you to write kind of a follow-up, basically how the program in its pursuit of either their white whale or their holy grail of getting to Omaha, kind of the ups and downs. The real star of the show is the fans. And that's what this book is about. Never take this for granted. It comes out on Friday. You'll actually be selling copies of the book at Clark LeClaire Stadium on Friday, right?
That's right. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Okay.
And I have a couple of
State.
Yeah, a couple store-based book signings in Greenville as well. When we'll give the website address, and you can see all those events and details.
Okay.
At the end if you'd like.
So I've learned a lot. This is very educational for me. So my oldest son, James, is a freshman at ECU. I have followed ECU baseball. I'm familiar with their teams, and I'm familiar with the success that they've had, and I'm familiar with the heartaches that they've had.
Yes.
As much as ECU fans and NC State fans don't like to recognize it, they're kind of on this, they'd like to meet on this back end of the heartache spectrum, right? Whether it's NC State football or ECU football or ECU baseball, NC State baseball, they have a lot of that in common. So I kind of understand ECU fans, but I'm not there regularly. And now James, my oldest, is a freshman and he's learning. He's working with Steve and Igo at Hoist the Colors. And one of the first things he realized after a football season, no offense to the Pirates, was they weren't very good. And their schedule wasn't very good this year either, which is a double whammy, right? But he goes to his first baseball game. He texts me, because that's what, as you know, that's what kids do. And he goes, "Our baseball team is legit." I said, "Yes. I've been trying to tell you that." And he's like, no.
You can't tell a teenager. They have to learn it themselves.
He goes, "No, like, we're really good." And I'm like, "Yes." And more importantly, he goes, "The town really gets behind them. They're really into it." And I think that's what your book kind of takes a peek, and kind of really a great explainer. So just where you kind of started with all of this, and obviously, you know, the background with Coach LeClaire, and you know, the way that you chronicled his life and his fight with ALS. I would encourage everyone to read that book as well. But just kind of just picking up with some of those fans and out in the jungle, and just your really what started you on this journey to this book, Never Take This for Granted.
Sure. So my very first book was the book about Keith LeClaire, which is called Coaching Third. So I've lived in Greenville for 25 years. And about a decade into my time here, I had a lot of little kids in that first decade and couldn't see clear to writing anything longer than an article for quite a while. But I got to the point where books were really where I was heading and what I wanted to be doing. So it seemed like the first story I needed to tell was Keith LeClaire's story. Living here, having watched his journey, his battle with ALS, a very important story. Also, obviously, a very sad and hard story. So grateful I got to write that. People were very appreciative. And then I kind of went off all other directions. I wrote a couple of ACC basketball history books, as you mentioned. I read about fishing. I ghost wrote a lot of books. I did all kinds of things, but didn't get to come back to my own backyard. And at the encouragement of a couple of friends who said, "I think it's time for another ECU baseball book," I started to pursue that. Kind of followed the team through the 2023 season to see where that led us. And that helped define the shape of the book. If they'd made it to Omaha last year, it might have been a little bit different. From a fan and Pirate perspective, everybody wishes that had happened, but I'm glad the book turned out the way it did, because I think there's so many stories that wouldn't have gotten told in that other format. But as I went, and I like to sit in the jungle and left field, and I've been doing that for years. But I started out in the press box for part of the season, and I was like, I don't want to be in the press box. I used to do that as a regular sports writer, and I thought, I want to get back down in the jungle, and just started really interviewing fans, getting to know some of the stalwarts. And I thought, this is where the story is. And then I decided, it kind of interwoven with the fan stories, I wanted the top moments in this century from Pirate baseball. So then I started to pursue interviewing former players who kind of represented some of the big moments in the postseason since really 2001.
I thought one of the better sections and chapters was about some of the visiting players who hear a lot about the jungle and the interaction. And I went to a game. So I was at the regional where they beat State. And I've been to other times they've played Carolina in a more of a media capacity. So I went to the Keith LeClaire Classic. Yeah. And I sat in right field. So that was the first time I'd been out there for just going out as a game. And obviously now it's a little bit different. They sell beer, you know, like as you pointed out in the book, it used to be you just bring your own cooler and you can drink, and I could see the benefit of that. But it's kind of cool. You go out there and buy yourself a beer. It's still pretty affordable, and watch the game. And man, ECU hit 5 home runs all to right field. So that was kind of a trip. But the atmosphere itself, the interaction, not only with the home right fielder who kind of has a role, you know, he knew what was going on, and obviously the left fielder as well. But the visiting team does seem to really relish, if you will, as long as they have an open mind about it.
Yes.
Their interaction with the jungle. Is there a way, how would you describe some of the better ones who kind of get it, if you will?
Usually the left fielder from the opposing team gets out there, and the jungle fans start in on him in a nice way. They really are kind of just wanting to get to know him initially. And I've spent more time in left field. This does happen also in center and right, a little bit different, you know, types of nuance, but they'll start. And if that left fielder kind of turns and smiles and answer, you know, the kids are hollering at him, you know, Coke or Pepsi, McDonald's or Burger King, whatever it is. if they interact a little bit, he interacts a little bit. And then the next thing you know, they're saying, hey, you want a barbecue sandwich or you want a burger, whatever this jungle tailgate is cooking. And they'll slip him one through the fence between innings, if, all kinds of things. Some of my favorite stories, and there's one I love in the book from Anthony Cruz, who was a left fielder for Quinnipiac in 2019. And they came here for the regional, won their only postseason game ever so far in their program history in the first game of the regional. But that left fielder, Anthony Cruz, got very close to the Jungle fans. It was his senior year. So when they lost in the regional, it was his final collegiate game. And the Jungle fans had prepared a care package for him. So they put together a box with snacks and his name on the top. And, just to hear him share about what that meant. And that was the way he went out of his collegiate baseball career. It just really meant so much. So those are some of the best stories, or where they end up either out at a tailgate with the fans. Maybe it's a tournament. And when that team isn't playing, they're out tailgating, with these friends of theirs they've made, or they're getting a present at the end of the weekend. It's pretty amazing.
Bethany Bradsher is an author. She lives in Greenville. Her latest book is Never Take This for Granted. You can buy a copy of it this weekend at Clark LeClaire Stadium. If you're there, go check her out. There'll be other places and other opportunities to buy the book. ECU has this wonderful niche in baseball. So I have two questions for you. And I'm sure if we all knew the answer, and if Cliff Godwin knew the answer, it would already have happened. So I'll go a little bit bigger picture for you on the college baseball side. We've seen already with NIL and the transfer portal in baseball that it can have, even at Wake Forest. You don't think a little old Wake Forest, but their pitcher last year got him through the portal. Yeah, we saw here in Raleigh, Tommy White go from NC State, set a freshman record hitting home runs, to then helping LSU beat Wake Forest to win the College World Series title. So I worry not only for ACC teams, but I worry for ECU, even with the niche that they've carved. Are they going to be able to keep that niche and keep up with the SEC? Because it just seems like the money in the SEC, particularly on the baseball side, like I'm saying, this is not a little old ECU problem. This is a little old everyone, not the SEC problem.
Right.
So I wonder, are there any concerns, as someone who, not only as an author and someone who understands the ECU program, but as someone who realized how vital that program is to the Greenville community? Yeah. Is there any concerns of watching the SEC really just kind of pull away from everybody else in college baseball?
Sure. I think any fan of any team, like you said, that's not in the SEC, or even pulling back, not a Power 5 school, as ECU is not, has those concerns, and I know Cliff Godwin he told me when I was interviewing him for the book, he said, if we have to try to convince players to come here by paying them more than somebody else, I'll go dig ditches. He's a purist, as many coaches are. It's very difficult to be a purist in this current landscape. I will say that the NIL picture around East Carolina seems to be getting, more and more energetic. I'm seeing a lot more donations, big donations. Team Boneyard is really picking up. How does that compare to an LSU or a Tennessee or an Alabama? We both know, everyone knows that it's not equal at this point. So the answer to the question is, it's complicated. You hope that there are still players who would say, yeah, I can get a pretty nice check, and I can also play in a really unique environment, maybe close to home if they're a regional local kid, and that the recruiting will not take a huge hit, or the transfer portal won't take away the best players. ECU's lost some good players to the transfer portal over the past couple of years, but not that many. Right. There hasn't been an exodus that has put a significant dent in the program. So, where are we heading with all this? This is the $1 million question in terms of the way finances work in college sports right now. But I hope that players who come here on recruiting visits will see, some of the things I describe in the book that are intangible and want to be part of that. Yeah,
I kind of look at ECU baseball a little bit like Gonzaga basketball. Like they have their own, you don't have to go somewhere else to have all the things that Gonzaga has, right? Like you don't have to go to Kentucky or Carolina. You can have that at Gonzaga, which is a little bit of a remote spot as well. And then my other question for you was, and obviously if we had the answer, we would honestly, we would all go tell Cliff, and we would all go tell ECU to how to do it. But ultimately, why do you think they've been unable to get to Omaha?
Some years it's been pitching depth, lack of bullpen depth for sure. Some years it just feels like it's just been bad luck.
Yeah.
I mean, that super regional in 2022 and game 2 against Texas, and the tide just turned. And when it turned. And I when I wrote that section of the book in the last chapter, I was writing about kind of the way that regional and that loss in game 2, when it seemed like everything was working in the Pirates' favor. There are those of us that consider ourselves fans that just really can't talk about it. It's kind of the Voldemort, he that should not be named, because it was so painful. And you look back, and Texas had some incredible hitters, and they just got hot at the wrong time. And momentum is so real in this sport. So it's not a real clinical answer other than to say you do have to have everything working. 2022 didn't look like the team that was going to do it, to be frank. I mean, they got swept by Ryder in the opening series of the season. But then they got on a hot streak. Now this season, this team we're looking at, 2024, has more balance offensively. The defense is still working out some things, but I think has all of the tools to do it. And I just don't see any reason why they can't. Personally, looking at it right now.
NC State just won their first ACC basketball title in 37 years.
Yes.
Like I said, NC State fans and ECU fans are simpatico in ways that sometimes they don't like to admit.
They don't want to admit
it. So there might be a payoff there. I hope there's a payoff there. Like I said, I went to the LeClaire Classic and I love it. And they came down. ECU came down to Raleigh, wore them again. I love it when they wear the 23 jersey and with the signature on it. Like it's such a great way to honor Coach LeClaire. And if you've known anyone, and unfortunately I've known 2 people who have lost their life to ALS, it really is the worst. I mean, your brain is still there. Your brain, you become a prisoner of your body, and it's just so difficult, particularly for the people that love them and who have to care for them.
Yes.
And I just commend you for the way that you wrote about Coach LeClaire, and I commend ECU for the way that they continue to honor him, and just as NC State does with Chris Combs.
Yes, I love when those 2 teams play, and both are the tributes to both of those great men. It's a really, again, another thing that the 2 programs have in common.
Unfortunately, in this case, yes. All right, Bethany Bradsher, tell people how to find Never Take This for Granted.
I'm going to hold it up. Here it is. Okay. Here's the book. ECUBaseballbook.com. You'll get everything you need to know. You can still pre-order until Thursday night at midnight. Then after that, it won't be a pre-order anymore. It'll be an order because the book launches Friday morning. That website also has all kinds of information about the book signings I'll be doing this weekend around Greenville. There'll be quite a few of them. I told somebody, if you just holler my name, I'll probably hear you and I'll come sell you a book this weekend. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, you can order. You can see where I'm going to be. You can see media appearances and learn all kinds of things about the book right there.
Awesome. Thank you, Bethany.
Thank you so much.
You and enjoy the baseball season.
Yes, I certainly will.
Big thanks to Matt Davis, InsureGarner.com, TheOGinsurance.com, or call him directly at 919-779-8277. There's a couple of themes. There's a rotating selection of hats that I guess Joe does not have a Matt Davis hat.
I do have a Matt Davis. It's just not here today.
But he does have a Matt Davis QR code. So if you're watching on YouTube, just hold up your phone to that QR code and you'll be good to go. In the meantime, you can go to the website or call them directly again at 919-779-8277 and start saving money. It's been a theme of the last couple of weeks of saving money. This might be your time to think, oh, you know what? I need to see where my insurance is at. Can I get better rates? Hunch tells me that yes, you can get better rates thanks to Matt Davis. InsureGarner.com. Got a text yesterday from one of our friends. We had a Costanza moment, Joe.
Oh,
come on, give me the Costanza.
Costanza.
It's like you got me on the sleep thing.
Yes.
I'm trying to find a little bit better way to get more consistent, deeper sleep. You got me on the nature's relief. And what did he tell me? I'm a little intimidated. Yeah. I got questions. I don't know. He's like, I was out on the West Coast. I got some good stuff, but I don't know what it is. Can I find it here? Well, naturesreliefhempstore.com. Various locations across the triangle, 2 in Raleigh, including the one on Western Boulevard. This Saturday, they're going to have a grand opening event. So check them out, Nature's Relief, and Relief is spelled RELEAF, hempstore.com. You've got questions. Don't be intimidated. Just Be very specific. I would like this. Cool. Let's take you over here and we can discuss what this is about. Right. And it doesn't have to be something like what I've been talking about, sleep or cutting out on a little bit of anxiety. Sometimes, man, you just want to chill. It's the weekend. You've had a long week. You're just looking to do something sessionable on a Saturday.
Sure. And that doesn't include 28 beers.
Nope.
Yeah.
They got that. So again, naturesreliefhempstore.com, and make sure you check out that grand opening event taking place this Saturday, Western Boulevard. Speaking of hanging outside, you don't want mosquitoes to ruin it for you. Now's the time to start getting that treatment. Go to Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority, bugsbite.com. You can bundle and save on your outside treatments and on your indoor treatments. They also have all sorts of other things they can do for you. Moisture barriers in your crawl space, misting systems to really keep all the critters away. It all happens at bugsbite.com. Again, that's bugsbite.com. So we're at the time of the year where there's a lot of little things that are going on that don't necessarily require full devoted segments. So I thought, Joe, we could workshop a little lightning round. Are you ready for a little lightning round?
Yes, please.
Do we need a best special voice for? I'll do this live.
Lightning round.
As you can see, I updated some things. So let's go with, do you like voice digitizer?
Lightning round.
Or do you want monster?
Lightning round.
Which one do you prefer?
I like monster.
Okay, let's go with monster then. Speaking of monster.
WNBA ratings were monstrous.
Did you watch any of the WNBA draft?
I did not.
I watched the walk-up because the fits were incredible. They absolutely brought it. And the ratings also were pretty incredible. And the only reason why I bring this up is because it solidifies what we've been talking about when it comes to women's college basketball. WNBA draft average viewership through the years. They basically highlighted the previous essentially 20 years. In 2004, 601,000 people watched it. Last year, 572,000 people watched it. Last night, or this Monday night, 2.446 million people watched the WNBA draft. Now, why would they do that? Because they've had a couple of years of
Caitlin Clark and continuity.
That's just the latest example of continuity matter. This can be you, college basketball. This men's college basketball. This could be you.
But that slightly dismisses Clark's star power.
I know. She was a phenomenon that we don't typically see in college basketball these days. Just something we haven't seen. The last time we saw it was Zion Williamson, which gets us to,
which was 1 year.
Lightning round.
Zion got hurt, man. I'm convinced that if Zion doesn't get hurt, the Lakers they get beat last night.
Okay.
They beat the Pelicans, which of course gets them the prize of
losing to the Nuggets.
Yes. Darvin Ham was asked about that last night. And it's like, hey, would you have rather have lost last night so you don't have to see the Nuggets? He's like, what are you talking? Like, stop it. Like, get out of the basement. You want to win these games. Now, do I think the Lakers are going to get swept by the Nuggets? Do you think so?
No, I think they'll win one game.
All right.
We had someone tweet at us and say, I love these one game, one off, one and done games, though, the format for the NBA. I totally agree. It's still slightly confusing. Like, oh, wait, which one's still alive? Which one was eliminated? The real team that was eliminated last night was the Warriors. And I think this is it.
Yeah, the tweet that you're referencing came from Scott. The energy of these NBA playing games is reminiscent of the NCAA tournament. I love it. How can the NBA capitalize on this? Or is this the peak of it? One and done is such drama. I honestly think this is the peak of it. I don't think you can do more of it.
No, but what we got last year, though, with the Lakers going from that play-in round to the conference finals, with the Heat going from the play-in round to the NBA finals, that's what the NBA is looking for, a little bit more of those stories where it's not just the year of boring, or as you want me to say it more appropriately, the year of the favorite. Like if we get Boston and Denver in the finals, Gambling Joe's not going to be very happy.
Fair enough.
Lightning round.
Yes, the Warriors are done. 12 seasons with the big three. You can throw Kevin Durant in there to total up to 4 titles. Yes, there's that 73-9 season, but a little bit of that's not the full story of that season. Yes, historic regular season, but never forget They blew a 3-1 series lead.
Way to go, Draymond.
Way to go. Way to go. LeBron James will always have that. It's the conversion rate for that title.
It's at least 3.
At least 3.
At least 2, I should say.
No. 3, man. 3.
Season to taste on 3.
Because, I mean, beating that Warriors team in Cleveland, I mean, come on now. That's where it's at. Now, here's a question. I did not watch the game last night, but I woke up this morning and I saw where Klay Thompson was, 0 of 10, I think, from the field last night. And then you
literally just had this conversation yesterday about our expectation being broken by Tom Brady and LeBron James, if everyone can just play until they're 50.
Thank you.
And we say, listen, we saw this in football. I keep telling you, there was no shame in Cam Newton having the career he had. There's no shame in Russell Wilson no longer having his fastball either.
No.
The players that, those exceptions are the exceptions for a reason. Klay Thompson was amazing. He is now past that point of his career where he's amazing. The real story last night to me was the Kings. This is a team that has failed to get over on the Warriors, and they could have easily been sent home last night, and they weren't. It's the NBA, as we've talked about, when you go from, Jordan to LeBron and Kobe in the middle, and you're trying to find, there's a tendency to dismiss how good the other players are.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Swipe or no swiping. Yeah, De'Aaron Fox for the Kings. He's a really good player. Sabonis' kid is a really good player.
Sure.
Just because they don't win an NBA title doesn't mean they're not good players. And I think that the difference between these teams, as we saw last year, like I said, Lakers made the conference finals out of the playing round. The Heat come out and win the East out of the playing round. The difference between these teams right now, it's very slight.
Back to the Warriors real quick. It's not just Klay Thompson. It's also Draymond Green as well. And even Steph Curry has to do a little soul searching as to where he is at this point in his career. I did not watch the game last night. I only saw the repercussions and the storylines related to the Warriors who have struggled through it for a variety of reasons. It's over. Yeah. I mean, it is over. Whether it's Klay Thompson just not having his fastball anymore. And really, why do you want to keep putting up with Draymond Green at this point? We haven't spent a lot of time talking about Draymond Green's antics. That's usually national sports talk radio fodder. It's to get the people going. But I think he's become more of a liability than anything else. And at this point, it's a wrap. The Warriors have to reinvent themselves. How they reinvent themselves around Steph Curry, potentially, I'm not sure how you do that. But hey, man, hell of a run, dude. Yeah. Hell of a run.
You don't get to write your own ending.
No, you don't.
I've said that to you many, many, many times on this podcast. You do not get to write your own ending. It's very rare for the ones that do to get to walk it off the way that some people do. Here's the thing, though, about Draymond Green. He probably would be awesome with Charles Barkley on TV or whatever form he wants. Like, he would be awesome.
Oh, easily. No, yeah. Now, he doesn't
need to play anymore.
He does not. He already has his podcast. And yes, he's going to elevate himself onto a desk job, and he's going to be fantastic. It's 2 separate conversations.
Sure.
There's the on-the-court production where he's just kind of useless at this point and a liability. No, he's a liability.
A consistency issue is what it is. So, the thing that the Warriors can do, and they probably need to move on from Steve Kerr, who, I think the world of.
Sure.
The truth of the matter is, if they're going to rebuild around something around Curry, they're going to have to hit that hard reset button.
Speaking of going into the broadcast booth,
Lightning round.
I'm having too much fun with this. There's a deep dive on ESPN.com about Bill Belichick and why he does not have a head coaching job in the NFL going into next season.
Okay.
And essentially, as the story put it, he was voted off the island.
By the Patriots?
By the NFL.
By the NFL.
By owners, essentially. And I thought that this was the closest he seemed to have, the closest he was to getting an NFL job was the Atlanta Falcons, apparently, which I think most of us knew, but we didn't know necessarily the details around it. And this is from Don Van Natta and others, and Seth Wickersham and Jeremy Fowler over at ESPN.com. Again, deep dive, a lot to get into. I'm only going to get to the surface level of this for podcast purposes. And Belichick was aware that his head coach GM hybrid had fallen out of favor around the league. A year ago, Belichick had drinks with another head coach. Over the cocktails, Belichick told the coach that perhaps there was a better way than the way Belichick had been doing things for nearly a quarter century. And in the pair of interviews with Arthur Blank and the Falcons executives, sources said, Belichick pledged his willingness to coexist with Falcons executives under this new paradigm. In fact, he insisted he just wants to coach. But the Falcons realized that if you hire Bill Belichick, you hire all of him. an entire philosophy and ethos stemming from one man's ethic and ingenuity, sources said. In the end, his assurances failed to persuade blank and team executives. Quote, he was essentially voted off the island, a source close to the Falcons' hiring process said. Part of that hiring process was also talking to Robert Kraft, owner of the New England Patriots. In fact, there's a connection here. A lot of people doing their due diligence with Bill and calling up Robert and being, okay, what's going on?
What's it really like?
What's it really like? And reading between the lines, I think Robert Kraft gave him an honest assessment and where Bill Belichick was at the end of his career with the Patriots, and everybody went, no, I don't want to put up with that at this point.
It's hard to do things a different way. Now, particularly once you've been successful. I will say this for Bill Belichick. He was the absolute master of game-to-game game planning. Hey, you think I'm going to run this whole game? I'm going to come out and attempt 24 straight passes. Oh, you think I'm going to light you up with Gronk and Randy Moss? Nope. I'm going to come out and run with one of my 38 reclaimed running backs off of the waiver wire, and Corey Dillon et al. So he was the master of that. So I want to give him more flexibility as a coach, but you could absolutely see a conversation between Arthur Blank and Robert Kraft being like, do you think Bill is capable of coming here and letting certain things go? And Robert Kraft being like, basically saying that has not been my experience of what has happened here.
Essentially here, two sources who spoke this blurb. In a conversation with Blank, Kraft delivered a stark assessment of Belichick's character, according to a source who spoke to two people, a close Kraft friend and longtime Bill Belichick confidant. The source quoted Belichick. The source quoted the Belichick source. Again, we got sources on sources. That's why there's a lot of like reading between the lines here. Robert called Arthur to warn him not to trust Bill. That account was backed up, the source said, by a close Kraft friend. So he's saying all the right things, but he's going to be Bill.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. For Robert Kraft to be in the position that he's in, he's really only there because of the strength of two people in particular. And for him to badmouth one of those two people is poor form, in my opinion. But he wants to feel strongly about it. That's obviously his prerogative. There's
also a blurb in here about the Carolina Panthers kicking the tires on the possibility of Bill Belichick coming to Charlotte. And I'm paraphrasing here because I don't have it in front of me when I was from when I was reading it this morning. And paraphrasing here, essentially, he was saying, where the article said, yeah, so David Tepper loves to break down film and question his coaches. I mean, that's how it all laid out. And that's obviously not going to fly with Bill. Like, at least David Tepper had the awareness. What I want to do is not going to work with Bill Belichick. So I give him a little bit of credit on that one. And finally,
on the lightning round,
I was listening to, this isn't even the new Roadcaster, by the way.
I know. I updated firmware and stuff like that. So last point.
What a dork.
Last point. I was listening to the Go Long podcast by Tyler Dunn.
Okay.
It's a Substack. We're going to talk to Tyler next week leading into the draft. And he was talking about Drake May.
Is it the draft already?
Dude, it's draft next week.
Finally?
So I was listening to this podcast. And they were talking about Drake May, and they're having the same kind of like, I don't understand the discourse around Drake May. And Tyler, paraphrasing, said he called somebody close to the Chicago Bears front office. It's a pretty big insider. And when talking about, like, what's the deal? Like, is it so obvious, Caleb Williams? Like, why wouldn't you kick the tires on Drake May too? I mean, I can see it. And the guy says, he's just Mitch Trubisky, maybe worse.
Mark it, clip it. Drake May is going to start in the NFL for 10 years. Minimum.
All right.
Minimum.
Anyway, we're gonna talk about that later.
He will be the best quarterback in the history from UNC. That's a low bar. I get that. But he will be their Phillip Rivers. He will start in the league forever. People who are dismissing him are making a serious mistake.
And that concludes the lightning round.
Your regular voice might be picked up by my mic.
Maybe.
It's very gold of you.
Big thanks to Breeze Through for sponsoring Ovies and Giglio. Check them out online, breezethrough.com. We've been talking a lot of hockey. We'll be getting some coffee at that Breeze Through. It's about that time.
I don't need to remind you, we had a 4 overtime game last year, sir.
So get ready, stay caffeinated, and of course, stay fueled up. Thanks to our friends at Breeze Through. Check them out, breezethrough.com. Also, thanks to the Butcher's Market. Maybe you're thinking about tailgate plans. You'd love to know when you can tailgate this weekend because as of this recording, we still don't know when the game is between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Islanders. Actually, just got a text from a buddy of mine. We really don't know what the day is. Like, no, the NHL remains the dumbest. But be prepared for the tailgate. Head on over to the Butcher's Market, thebutchersmarkets.com. Again, that's thebutchersmarkets.com. Speaking of the Carolina Hurricanes, I knew with just about everybody up in the press box as a healthy scratch, Seth Jarvis doing broadcast work with Mike and Tripp, that the Canes were not going to win this game. So I put $5 down on a single game parlay with the Columbus Blue Jackets, like money line, over 6 goals or whatever, total goals, all sorts of stuff. I won $50. I was very excited about that. Very excited about that,
Go
Joe.
away.
What?
Go away. Sick of you people and your parlays.
You hate parlays so
I don't
much.
hate them. I never win them.
Okay.
Every time I win something, it's very straight. Like I had the Winnipeg Jets in the first period last night.
Okay.
Like I'm the guy on rounders who's winning one bet at a time, one hand at a time.
I see.
Meanwhile, you're over here like, here's a prefab parlay.
No, I mean, I'm not.
Let me just get this
Look,
one.
Hold on a second. Let me log in.
Like, that's cool. I love gambling for beginners. It's awesome. This is not how the misery is supposed to work, people.
Yeah, so I'm
just gonna take all these favorites. It's great.
I'm doing a prefab 5-pick parlay plus 1,000 for the Heat and the Sixers tonight because Jimmy Butler's like, oh, him over me. In fact, that's what they called the prefab parlay bet.
That's pretty
over
good.
Me?
That's pretty good.
Oh, the creativity that they have with some of these parlay bets is great. They get me on the hook all the time. So here's what I have a question for you though, because I don't know this yet. So part of my 5-pick parlay is 20 plus points for Jimmy Butler alt points. What does alt mean?
So your standard number, which would be like a juice of like minus 110, 115, 120.
Okay.
So that's his scoring average. So alternate means either higher or lower, and they adjust the juice accordingly. So 20 points would probably be below his average.
Yeah.
Which means the juice on it would be like 160, 180.
I see.
Meaning if you risk 160, you win. You have to risk 160 to make 100.
Okay.
Normally, his normal average would be a standard minus 110, minus 115.
I gotcha. So that was my only curiosity because I've seen alternative spreads in there. And I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, you can create an alternative to anything, really. The line, the total, an individual scoring number. What they're doing is saying by creating an alternative, you're affecting the juice. Is what you're doing.
All right.
Either in your favor, away from what they think is going to happen, or away from it.
So I'm looking at the prefab parlay bets right now. They've got one called Playing the Hits. All got a hit last night. Back them to get another today. This includes Pete Alonso, Vladimir Guerrero, Juan Soto, and others.
Sure.
It's what do I got here? It's plus 720. I'll put $5 down on that 6-pick parlay.
Oh boy.
And we'll see what happens. How much would I win? $41. I'm all about that. I'm about that action.
About that life.
I'm about that single game parlay life, Joe.
I do.
It's worked out for me.
It has, and I shouldn't be a hater. The umbrella.
You have
the gambling tent is big enough for everyone.
You have your thing. You have your thing.
You're right. I shouldn't be a hater.
I'm also looking at RBC Heritage. So here's the other question.
If you start winning golf bets, that might be the end of the OG Media LLC. So
I'm sitting here looking at certain things for the RBC Heritage, including something called the Big Guns versus the Field. So I can take the Field at minus 225, or I can take the Big Guns that they list as Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, and Xander Schauffele at plus 160.
To win.
So if any of these three guys wins,
okay,
it's plus 160.
It's not a terrible bet.
Will there be an albatross plus 1,200?
RBC Heritage is a striker's course. It's a second shot course, much like the Masters.
I'm going to put $5 down on that albatross.
Okay,
because why not? Winner in the final grouping. No is plus 200.
but meaning will the winner be in the final group on Sunday?
Which,
yeah, you don't know who it's going to be.
I don't know who it's going to be. So it is what it is. All right. So should I take the plus 160 on this? It's a striker's course, you said?
It's still the PGA Tour. It's still difficult to win. The person who actually played, there's two people in particular who play well there.
Okay.
Patrick Cantley and Jordan Spieth. Those are two people who normally and regularly play well there.
Okay.
So, you know who also played there well there forever? Webb Simpson. Who was always the second shot guy.
I got you. So what do you have?
I've been on a little bit of a nerfy run. I'm trying to do some math on my nerfies.
Here's an example. I've tried some nerfies. Not great.
So I've actually put Patrick in charge of trying to do some math on the nerfies for me.
Is he getting a commission?
Potentially, but no, we've been talking about like what are good ideas for nerfies, and we're workshopping the concept of taking those early start games.
Sure,
right. So you had the night before. Not only did your team play the night before, but managers are more inclined to sit people in day games.
Mm-hmm.
So far, the two early starts this week have both been nerfies, no runs in first innings. I don't like the first two games on the board today, but there is a 1 o'clock game between the Pirates and Mets. I am nerfing the Pirates and Mets today.
Got it. So as you can see, there's a variety of ways that you can have fun on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. And with the Stanley Cup here, the playoffs are here. The chase is on, and DraftKings Sportsbook is here for you. And you can light the lamp when you download the app and use the promo code OG24. New customers who bet $5 will get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's code OG24 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 877-718-5543 or visit morethanagame.nc.gov. 21 plus, North Carolina only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. One early win per opted-in customer. Max. Bet limits apply. Token expires at the start of the game. See dkng.com/ice for wagering eligibility and terms. So, what does that all mean? So with DraftKings, we've got things like same game parlays, live betting, odds boost, and so much more. But this week, North Carolina customers can place a pregame moneyline bet on Carolina. And if they lead by at least 2 goals at any time during the game, you win, even if you end up losing the game. So that's where the token comes in. I've done this a couple of times, these no sweat bets, etc. Right. And there's minimums and maximums and things like that. But like I said, any customer that places a pregame moneyline bet on Carolina, and if they lead by at least 2 goals at any time during the game, you win, even if they end up losing the game. And then with those types of things, you will get in return and try it on something else. Like last night, I tried a token on first 3-point made between the Warriors and the Kings.
That's how you know, man. That was my brother-in-law. He's like, I started to get into that next basket because he's got cable. And he was like, man, he's like,
yeah. So
I was up 1,000. I was down 200. All of a sudden, I'm like, what am I doing?
Part of the bet was you ended up getting like $1 token for every 3-point made.
Oh,
if you made this bet. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I can do this, or I could do this. And it's pretty neat, and all sorts of different ways to experiment with DraftKings. So I've been enjoying it. You can do the same thing too. So go check them out.
No questions, call in.
I am just Butterfingers today when it comes to technology. I'm not going to edit any of this out, Joe.
Don't.
I'm going to let the people see me flubbing so they can feel better about
every time I do.
When you do it. See? Yeah. Even I screw up
finally
from time to
clip
time.
From the Final Four. My $6 headphones.
Oh, dude. Dude.
Why didn't you send me a message and be like, sir?
It's okay. It's okay. We powered through the Will Brinson experience. Everything
and then I saw Brinson
fun after that.
Leaving the comment. When Brinson was dunking on me, I'm like, now keep in mind, obviously, I was not sober. So
really? No. I had no idea, Joe. At least I leave people guessing. You leave no room for interpretation.
Chris, our Enlow/State/Bourbon fan, was like, seems to be the drunker you get, the more people like you. I was like, yeah, but that's not That's not great.
No.
That's not a great precedent to set.
Yeah, I had some people, that was like the greatest show ever. I'm like,
it was the worst.
okay.
I was listening to it. I'm like, oh no.
That's fine. I think people, you know what it is? I think people just enjoy the real, man. Simple as that. They just enjoy the real.
Can I tell you the one thing I was spoiled by? And obviously have been, and I know this.
Yeah.
When you have a media pass, you can leave the building and come back in.
Yeah.
At a lot of places, you cannot do that. So in my back of my head, when I walked out on Saturday,
yeah, I wondered about that.
There was like a fence, and I don't know if it was like a smoking area. I
think you were in a smoking area,
right?
Yeah.
So I'm like back there, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, I don't have a credential. I was like, I don't.
Yeah, I was. Look.
And what was really screwing me up?
I didn't ask questions. I was like, how the hell is he outside? Is he done for the day?
What was really screwing me up is I was with Joey Doster.
Yeah.
Who's head of arena security at PNC.
But he's not getting back in. He's not getting back in.
He's looking at me, and I'm like, you can't help me?
Not here. Because Joey just goes as a fan.
Right.
So, I mean, he's got his connects, don't get me wrong, but I'm sure if Joey wanted to get back in the building, he could have.
Yeah.
And he could have helped you out. But
he wasn't sober either.
You act like I haven't hung out with Joey at a Final Four before.
You're right.
I've hung out, R.I.P. Michelle.
Yeah.
But I've hung out with him and Michelle back in the day at various Final Fours. Yep. And yes.
Fun has been had.
Fun has been had with that crew. All right. From Frank, my favorite genre is when tech-forward entrepreneurs reinvent something from before they were born. Telephone calls. We're going to go back to the early 90s, and I cannot wait. Look, it's not all a bad thing.
Right.
Honestly, it's not all a bad thing to go back to a few of these things that we used to enjoy back in the day. Although my favorite social media meme genre right now is look at all these people just enjoying the moment. You know, not a phone in sight, but then they start doing things like, you know, here is the JFK, you know, motorcade. Not a cell phone in sight. People just enjoying the moment. Oh, whoops. From Bud. This is from the conversation earlier. As a Sabres fan, I am seeing a lot of rumors about Kevin Adams making a call to his old friend Rod the Bod and throwing him a bag to come save our cursed franchise. Are the Canes going to get this new contract done with him or what? I think we answered that question with Sara Civian, and I think we're all in agreement with that.
Yeah, the Sabres, they're in line, man. Come on. I guess English soccer technically first in line. Maybe we could do something for you people. We will whore ourselves for your cause.
Oh,
and I will help the Buffalo people for sure.
Honestly,
I'm willing to help the Buffalo people.
One of my favorite interactions of all time was talking to Kevin Adams, who's from the Buffalo area, obviously. And after they won the cup, he had his day with the cup and everything else. And remember, they beat the Sabres to get to the Stanley Cup finals. That was the very drunk Eastern Conference finals at PNC Arena. And Kevin was asked by a Sabres fan, it's like, hey, you know, congrats on this, but like, wasn't there like part of you that would have, I mean, Buffalo suffered for so long. We haven't seen a championship. And wasn't there like a little bit of you that would have been like cool to see Buffalo win? And Kevin's like, no, my name's on the cup. Anyway, from Josh, what is the point of the Canes geofencing their playoff tickets to NC residents to keep New York fans out of all of those? Excuse me, I cannot read all of a sudden. NC residents to keep NY fans out if all those NY fans, Isles and possibly Rangers, have NC billing addresses. Good question.
Right? But don't they typically lift that closer to the tip off as well?
I think it's essentially for pre-sale.
Yeah, you want people who are here to have the first crack at it.
But
that's a common practice.
But to Josh's point, there was a lot.
Oh yeah, he's saying
when the Rangers were here, there was a lot of go back to Cary, all this other stuff, which is hilarious to me because don't you live in Cary too? Or I think same thing with Boston. It's a transplant heavy area, man. I mean, it is what it is. And let's see. I think that's it. I think that's all we got from the Hey Joe. So that's gonna wrap it up for today's show. We will be live tomorrow in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Our friend Michael Felder is going to drop on by.
Oh,
yeah. Felder's going to drop on by because I got some questions for him about JJ McCarthy versus Drake May. Okay. Drake May versus Jaden Daniels. Hell, Drake May even versus Caleb Williams.
Right.
Because as we talked about, you know,
in the lightning round,
I'm not really understanding a lot of this Drake May conversation. But
you need to get to work on some He-Man like lightning bolts to accompany your lightning round voice.
I like that.
The power of Grayskull.
It's a great idea. We'll see you tomorrow.